welcome you to our daily Bible study. I am your host, Dr. Derek A. Reeves. We are right now in the 8th segment that is entitled, Understanding Fear. We are in our 8th segment, and this is the 7th in the series, and this is part 6 for Terms for Fear. Let's dive right into it. We have a lot to try to unpack, and I'm going to put all of this up on the screen so we can dive right in. Our first term is going to be the word, again, from the Hebrew language. It is the word, and I want to make sure that we get these terms correctly. And so it is the word that is yirah. And so it's a feminine term that deals with fear. And it can deal with morally reverence or moral reverence for an individual. And so it kind of holds true from the last terminology. And so yirah, fear, terror, fearing, or fear or terror. So it's awesome or terrifying thing, the object that causes fear when we perceive it. It can be the fear of God, which is respect, reverence, or piety. And if we were to continue in the ancient Hebrew, yirah, this pictogram then again deals with the hand of man and of man. When you combine these, the hand of man is used for throwing or flowing. And so we can see then that this term yirah is kind of a derivative from the word yareh. And so it's within the same definitive series, so it has a mutual meaning of prostrating oneself at the feet of someone. And so you prostrate yourself and you go before them. You throw yourself to the ground because of how awesome they are, or because of how you deeply reverence and respect them. Let's go a little further, and we will look at the very next word. This term, again, is a Hebrew word, and it is the word in the ancient Hebrew, or the Hebrew, that deals with, as it's interpreted, magor. Some pronounce it, another derivative is magur. And so magor or magur. And it's in the sense of fearing, affright, something that is objectively or subjectively. So it can be a literal object of fear, or it can be something in the mind that is causing fear, perceptions of past events, past things that we've experienced, and they've become part of the system of our thinking that influences our emotions. If we were to go a little further, magor or magur, again, can deal with terror. So it's a fear then that invokes one or maybe all of the 4 F's. The fight, which means the opposition, where you fear so much that you feel like you have no regard other than to fight. It brings out sometimes the violence or the strength in us, because as a last resort, we want to survive. And in that respect, sometimes fear is good, because we realize there's no other way, and so we have to take care of business. And when we look at the term again, well, let's continue with the 4 F's. Again, fight, flight. Flight can deal with running for your life when you feel something is going to be so dangerous that you won't survive. We typically have a tendency to flee. And sometimes an aspect of fleeing is simply avoiding. When we go a little further and we look at the terminology, in the ancient Hebrew, it deals again with the fear, and it deals with afoot, and it means to walk. And so it again is combined with a walking man. And so many of these indications then point back to a man that has a mistrust of his surroundings and those individuals that are around him. And so an individual, because of unfamiliar situations, he doesn't know who to trust. And that can be a wise thing, depending on how we let our distrust or mistrust or suspicions be made known. And if we take it a little further, again, because we've dealt with this, I don't want to belabor this, but again, it is the terror or the fundamental concept underlining a sense of impending doom. It is used to signify, again, the fear that surrounds one whose life is being plotted against. And so these are the variations of the meaning. This term, when we deal with yirah, it deals with understanding that people are plotting against you. And so it's a man that's sojourning in a unique territory, something he knows nothing about, but because he can tell, whether it's, and I don't like to say sixth sense, so I'll say the gut feeling, or either through discernment or simply through observation, you can tell that individuals are plotting and planning against you, and so your life is at stake. And so it's the same type of fear that causes a soldier to retreat. And so the objective of this fear, and keep in mind, every thought has an objective. Every feeling has an objective. Remember, fear is an emotion, and the emotion of fear is to move you out. It moves you emotively, it moves you mentally, and it moves you to make a choice. And so it invokes every aspect of the powers of the mind. It gets you to think, what is the logical ramification? What must you do if you are to survive? Secondly, it invokes the emotions. And keep in mind that the emotions can directly influence the brain, and the brain will directly influence what you choose to do. Because fear, it can hijack the sensory mechanisms of the brain that produce or that will shift you into the intellectual aspects of the brain. So fear then invokes the part of the brain called the amygdala that sends responses to the endocrine system, and so specific chemicals can be released that incite the 4 F's: fight, flight, faint, or freeze. And so again, certain types of fear impact the physical body, and once the physical body is impacted, it causes you to respond immediately. So it ceases just to be a fear of the mind, but now it becomes a fear that is activated and propagated by the physical body. And so we thank you again for being with us. I am out of time. I am your host, Dr. Derek A. Reeves, and this is our daily Bible study. God bless and keep you.